Today's episode is a production of Blue Ram Media Group, LLC, and Private Officer International, the voice of the Frontline Protector. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the Private Officer Beat Radio on this Monday morning, the 25th of 2023. Yes, the month is all but over. And again, this weekend, another tropical storm hit the U.S., this time in the North Carolina and Virginia area. State of emergencies went up in Virginia, North Carolina, Maryland. And luckily for them, they did get a lot of wind and rain, some pretty substantial flooding in some areas, but it was not a full-strength hurricane. It was very close when it made landfall, and it's going to go up into the rest of the eastern coast, and that's the second time that we've had, in just a week or so, that we've had a near hurricane hit that side of the country. So, they predicted a lot of tropical storms this year. They predicted a lot of hurricanes and damage, and so far it's lived up to it. November is the end of hurricane season, so we still have a good 6 weeks before we're kind of out of the clear, although hurricanes have continued on through the month of September and early October, so who knows what the weather will bring. I hope that you listened to my radio show on the legal side yesterday. We talked about security officers using their personal vehicles while on duty and the dangers and risks and liabilities to that. It's a subject that we had to bring up and talk about because of a recent security officer who hit a building while on duty with his personal vehicle, caused damage, quite a bit of damage, and was injured. And so I hope that you go back and listen to it. If you haven't, it's on demand. You can go to iHeartRadio, you can go to our own website, or you can contact helpdesk@privateofficer.com, and we'll send you the link. We are on over 30 platforms now, and we simulcast our radio shows. All of our radio shows are done live, and we simulcast them, and we stream them every day of the year, all around the clock, 24 hours. So great opportunity for you to go back and take a listen to that. I do have quite a few things to talk about. We're going to talk about the number of shootings at high school football games this year. And when I say this year, I really mean just this month, because we're still in September. Let's face it, football season is got a long way to go, and school has barely opened its doors, and yet we're still, having to talk about all of the shootings. And these are just the ones recorded during football games, not even during normal school hours, not even including those shootings that happen off the property. You see, here's a trick that's played when collecting statistical data. The school property ends at that entrance or exit at the parking lot. Once you get out on the street, even though you might be standing right in front of the high school, right in front of the college, you're not on school property, so that injury or death or shooting won't be counted in the official statistical records. So that's something for you to keep in mind, because there's been a lot more shootings at high schools this year already than just 16. Well, unfortunately, today will be the last time that you'll be listening to me on the POI radio program. The 25th of September, 2023, you won't hear me anymore during the month of September, that is. Of course, I'm going to be here in October. I've been doing this program for almost 20 years. That was just kind of a little joke. Yeah, it was lame. I agree. But today we do have a lot of things to talk about, and this past week was the official Private Officer Memorial Week. We'll talk about that when I come back from the first break. We still have the Private Officer Memorial bands available. $20 donation. Go to privateofficer.org. Click up on the officer down at the top of the page. $20 donation. You'll get a Private Officer Memorial band. That's beautiful. It's embossed, high quality, and a POI patch. Just $20. You could also, while you're there, sign up to be a Private Officer International member if you're not already. And please become part of what's going on. Keep ahead of the curve. Know what's happening not only in the news. Please don't start me on that. But you really should be getting the newsletters. You can sign up at privateofficer.org. Just $50 a year. And we're going to sweeten the pie. And I'll tell you about that after the first break as well. You're listening to Rick McCann, founder and CEO of Private Officer International, the voice of the frontline protector here on the Private Officer Beat Radio.
Each day, those that protect and service in law enforcement put their lives on the line. These law enforcement officers often work long and irregular hours in tough and dangerous conditions, run a high risk of being attacked, wounded, or even killed by the very criminals that prey on us. Every year, hundreds of law enforcement officers are killed or seriously injured in the line of duty. Blue Alert is a system that provides the means to speed the apprehension of violent criminals who kill or seriously injure local, state, or federal law enforcement officers. Find out how you can truly help those who help. That's bluealert.us.
Body Armor USA, we've got what it takes to protect you. Whether you're looking for the top quality protective armor or protective clothing, stab resistant vest or gloves, contact my friend Ben over at Body Armor USA. Give him a call, 516 area code 817-1666. Again, that's area code 516 817-1666. Body Armor USA, we've got what it takes to protect you. No doubt about it.
Welcome back to the Private Officer Beat Radio on this, the 25th day of September 2023. The Private Officer International Memorial Week did not go so well. We were able to hold one service, and we have recorded parts of it that we will release on our radio show later in the week as well. We did have a number of sponsors. We had people who bought the wristbands, not as many as we had hoped for, but more than one. So I guess that's a good thing. Remember, they're still available. All that you have to do is go to privateofficer.org. Up at the top where the Officer Down link is, just donate $20. You'll get a free patch with that wristband. So it's a good deal. Unfortunately, since COVID, there's been a downhill effect. And we have monitored this, and we have looked back at some years past, and it just seems like no one, nowhere, wants to be involved in anything. I talked to a friend of mine about the military. Many people don't want to sign up for various reasons since COVID. I have friends who are part of other organizations, and their various chapters are, they say, the lowest membership in years. And it's not just POI having the same problem, but it's a nationwide problem. So I encourage you to, become a member of POI, to follow us on Facebook.com/Private Officer International, Twitter /Private Officer. Go to some of our other social media, read our news at privateofficerbreakingnews.blogspot.com, and be part of your profession. I get really discouraged and upset when people want to be called professionals or want to be treated like law enforcement, but they don't want to do all the things necessary to prove you're professional. Your professionalism doesn't have to be anything spectacular that you have to prove. You don't have to, wrestle down 5 suspects or, have 100 arrests per month or anything of that nature. It's what you do that speaks much louder than what you say. We can say one thing and do another, and it would be a complete opposite. So remember that the Private Officer Memorial is something that is near and dear to my heart. It's when we recognize the private security and private law enforcement killed on the job in the line of duty. And we have had a lot of attention, exposure, media covered through the years. And so next year, there's always next year, but next year we're going to be preparing for that this year. And next year we're going to get back to where we were 4 or 5 years ago, holding multiple services across the country with a lot of attendance and a lot of media exposure and a lot of good that we do. Remember that we're also always in need of donations because we assist families of those injured, those killed in the line of duty. We help Crime Stoppers. Right now, I told you on the last program, there are 3 different murders, robberies of security officers, and we are helping law enforcement and Crime Stoppers and other organizations track down those wanted people. We can't do it all by ourselves, all alone, so we need you. We need our members, our listeners, our supporters, and people to come together. Without you, we cannot do it. I've said this since the beginning. It's sort of like a restaurant. You see a new restaurant, hey, I'm going to try that place out. You drive by 50 times. 6 months later, 8 months later, you drive by, hey, what happened to that restaurant? I was going to stop and have lunch there. I was going to have dinner there. What happened? It's closed. Everyone says they're going to do something, but then they don't do it and wonder why things turn out the way that they do. We have to support one another. Last week we talked about standing up as a team, law enforcement and security. And we're still looking to do those roundtables with law enforcement and security companies. I was talking to a couple of staff members last week. I think what we're going to try to do is put together a webinar and invite some law enforcement and security companies to participate on an on-demand webinar, which means they don't have to be there in front of the screen, at any specific time. And they can just zip over whenever they want to and click on the video. And maybe that'll start a conversation and get some people interested in putting together a face-to-face roundtable, because law enforcement needs us. Law enforcement needs security. And security needs law enforcement. Imagine that you're in the midst of a battle, gunshots. You're shooting back and forth. And you call 911, but they don't show up because they don't think that you need them. Or maybe you don't call 911 because you think, hey, Hoss, I can do this all by myself. I'm big, bad, and mean. I've got enough bullets. It's like that guy at the hotel one time told me, I got bullets. I don't need no security. I got bullets. I got enough bullets. We need each other. Security needs police, and the police need security. Remember, the police is the community, and the community is the police. We're all one, and we need to stop all of this segregation. We need to come back together, the whole country. We need to come back together. Sure, we're going to have some disagreements. We're going to things that we don't agree on. We don't stand with everything. That's fine. That's being called an independent person. That's someone with a mind. That's someone who can make their own decisions. But when the time comes, when we got to go to battle, when we need to be in the thick of things, we all need to stand together. We'll be right back.
Across the country, there's a new 3-digit emergency number if you're feeling suicidal, if you're experiencing a life crisis. 988 is now the 3 digits that you can dial, just like 911 across the country. You'll connect with mental health professionals, and the 988 number will connect you with the Crisis Lifeline, formerly known as the National Suicide Prevention Line. Veterans can press 1 after dialing 988 to connect directly to the Veterans Crisis Lifeline, which serves our nation's veterans, service members, National Guard, and Reserve members, and those who support them. For text, veterans should continue to text the Veterans Crisis Lifeline short code 838255. Too many people experience suicidal crisis or mental health-related distress without the support and care that they need. But you're not alone. Simply pick up the phone and dial or text 988. Someone will answer that phone who is caring, understanding, and there to help you. 988. There is hope.
As they say, there's an app for that. It seems today there's an app for every single thing that you can think of. But there's a unique app that has just been introduced in California. This is a traffic stop app which allows the driver to communicate with law enforcement. So here you are in your vehicle, you're going down the road, suddenly you see lights in your mirror, sirens sounding, a police officer pulling you over, and, well, no one really likes to get a speeding ticket or a traffic ticket, a citation of any type. Sometimes people, especially elderly or younger people, may be a little leery as to who really is pulling them over. Now an app is out and being tested in California. It allows the driver to contact law enforcement simply by pressing a button which connects with the officer in the area. It gives that officer the description of the vehicle just to make sure it's the same one that they have pulled over. And essentially it's a FaceTime where the officer can tell the person who he is and why he has made that traffic stop. Now, there's no guarantee that this is going to calm down the situation, but it is made to at least give that driver a little bit more sense of this is law enforcement behind me and he does have a legitimate reason to pull me over. Now, police in California do say they don't have to answer that call. If they feel like the situation is unsafe, then no, they are not going to. If that person's a bank robber or a fleeing felon or has committed a serious offense, obviously police are going to dictate what happens next, not the driver. But some hope that this will help in the communication aspect in the everyday normal traffic citation or traffic stop, and we're just going to have to see what happens.
Unusual to be nervous when you get pulled over for a traffic stop. Now there's a new app being tested designed to help diffuse the tension in these situations. It seems, there's an app for just about anything, and one local city is trying out a new app to help make encounters with law enforcement go smoother.
KCAL's Jasmine Veal shows us how it works and what some drivers think about it.
You just had an experience. You got pulled over.
I did. I got pulled over on Melrose and Doheny.
West Hollywood apartment manager Richard Jones says a recent traffic stop by an officer left him shaken.
And he was very aggressive.
So when he heard about a new app called Safe Stop being tested out by the West Hollywood Sheriff's Station, he was on board. It allows a driver to make a video call with a deputy first during a traffic stop.
This is exciting. We definitely need something like this with the crimes going on, officers getting killed, all these things. And, it works both ways. The officers probably scared to get out the car, too.
So this is how the Safe Stop app works. If I was pulled over, I would open up the app and I would hit call officer.
It flashed up on my screen. It indicates the type of vehicle, and now it's going into a two-way connection. I would say, hi, this is Deputy Mulder, and I stopped you. I tell you why I stopped you, and I'm about to make an approach.
I stay in my vehicle and I guess hope I don't get a ticket.
the idea was let's go where the conflict takes place, which is at a traffic stop, and see if we can make that interaction easier.
SafeStop co-founder Tyler Hockman says no private information is shared, just the make and model of the vehicle to see that it matches the one the deputy pulled over. It's essentially a FaceTime call.
Yes, exactly.
Captain Bill Mulder says a deputy is not required to answer a driver's call if they feel it's unsafe.
Anytime we can, we will engage this particular technology to test it out and see how it works.
West Hollywood driver Karen Blackfield says she sees the benefits.
As a woman, for me, I want to know if someone's pulling me over, who they are, who's in the vicinity.
But Jones says he hopes the technology works.
We don't want that loading. We want to do that one stop, hit the button, it's there, I'm communicating.
SafeStop will even pay a percentage of a person's ticket if they are using the app at the time.
They expect this pilot program with the new app to be in place here for 6 months to a year and see how it goes. Here in West.
Life is precious. Ask any of these people. They've been given a second chance at life through organ and tissue donation. But there are more than 84,000 Americans waiting for life-saving transplants. 17 people die every day waiting. I didn't know this until I lost my best friend, Lyric. She gave the gift of life to 5 people. That's why I've become an organ donor, too. One decision saves so many lives. Donate life.
And relatives. That's because Dad thinks Mom is watching me, and Mom thinks Dad is. But actually, nobody is watching me. And you rarely make a sound when you're struggling to move.
Don't assume someone else is watching. Become a water watchdog at abbyshope.org.
From the POI Breaking News Desk, we're happy this morning that we're not reporting any fatality shootings involving security, but there have been several security officers who have been shot and others who have been injured during the past 7 days. We just told you here that there have been 16 school shootings at football games across the country since school opened, was back in session for the new year, the 2023 session. 16 shootings at football games. That doesn't take into account any of the shootings that have happened inside the school or outside the school or off the property, but in the general vicinity of the school. And this breaking news headline Monday morning kind of reiterates that whole situation. More school districts reinstating police presence on campus. We have been telling you this here at POI on the radio and in our news products for quite some time, actually long before school went into the summer break. Many schools have brought their police, SROs, and armed security back to the campus because of the substantial increase in violence and shootings and armed students as young as 8 years old carrying guns onto the campus, while many people really are still wondering whether police are an effective tool. It can't hurt. This news item from the AP, Associated Press, has hit dozens, probably hundreds of newspapers yesterday and today about the decision of many, many schools to reinstate police on campus, even against the wishes of students and parents. A security officer, speaking about campus security, a security officer in Brantford, Connecticut on Friday intervened during a fight between two students with a knife. According to Brantford police, the unarmed and unnamed security officer heroically intervened and stepped in the midst of that fight and disarmed the student and held him until police could arrive. They're not releasing, of course, the student's name or even the name of the security officer involved. They say it's all under investigation. Another story coming out of St. Charles, Missouri, just to kind of, again, highlight the reevaluation by many college and high school principals, education boards. St. Charles Linwood University, a private university, President John Porter has announced that their public safety officers will be armed immediately. The decision was not done lightly, he said, but we have noticed, like others, the substantial rise in violence, and that violence has spilled over onto our campus more than once. Our schools have been targeted with life-threatening situations, which has put us into a situation where we feel that we must arm our security personnel. This, my friend, will continue to be the headline across the country for some time to come. Oklahoma police are investigating after a shooting at the Oklahoma State Fair where they had security who was screening people coming through for weapons, and unfortunately a firearm slipped through security. A shooting occurred, and people want to know what happened. Why didn't security prevent that? We do the best we can, just like law enforcement, but we're not perfect, and unfortunately this time a firearm got by security at the front line and a shooting involving some injuries occurred. Coming out of Fulton County, Atlanta, Georgia, a Fulton County investigator who works for the district attorney's office accidentally shot herself Friday at the courthouse. Police won't release her name, but she is a state investigator with the district attorney's office. Authorities say she was transported to Grady's Hospital, and she will make a full recovery. A Bloomington, Illinois man, Joel Nazes, 45, is under arrest after assaulting security officers. Unfortunately, even though normally he would have been given a bond, Illinois just instituted a no-bond system for low crime, low criminal charges. So the suspect was released on his own recognizance. Authorities said that he's been charged with public disorder and 3 counts of assault. An excellent story coming out of Northern Virginia. Retail investigators with the Organized Retail Crime Network in Virginia, which includes law enforcement and loss prevention, have captured thieves from New York City, Brooklyn, and Queens. 3 suspects who were coming into Virginia back and forth up and down the Interstate 95 for the purpose of stealing a lot of product. This time they were captured with about $45,000 worth of merchandise in the Tyson's Corners area, and they are still in custody. Speaking of Virginia, the state police just graduated the 139th generation of state troopers. They came from all across the country and several other countries. Now, state troopers in Virginia are required to undergo 1,300 hours of training, 100 plus different subjects, and many other types of training, including emergency medical trauma and public and community relations. Congratulations to those troopers. Costco, Lowe's, Best Buy, Tractor Supply, and more than a half a dozen retailers announced this past week they are gaining ground in the battle against retail theft. There are a number of different things that they are doing. The store location and layout of the store has been changed up in many retailers. They are putting less merchandise on the floor and more merchandise behind lock and key. And something that we did back in the 90s and early 2000. And then, of course, it was an inconvenience and they brought it all back out onto the floor. Many stores have announced in recent months they have taken out many of the self-checkouts to prevent theft at the front line. And now we're seeing more and more support staff at some of these stores. Again, customer service is being brought back as a way to deter crime. A woman is accused of shooting at security at a country music star Dirk Bentley's Whiskey Row in Denver. The suspect is in custody after shooting multiple people and shooting at security. She was taken into custody and is jailed. There's been a lot of buzz in the announcement from Mayor Adams of New York City in the debut and patrol of 420-pound NYPD robot who's been assigned to patrol the NYC subway stations along with police. He says this is an effective tool. It only costs us $9 an hour compared to that of adding a security officer or police officer. It's a trial. We'll see how it works, and it may or may not stick around. A Greensboro, North Carolina security officer was injured after a person fired a flare gun, hitting her in the face. She was trying to break up some homeless people while on patrol when suddenly someone pulled a flare gun. Police have not made an arrest. The woman is currently recovering from her injury. Speaking of homeless shelters and homeless situations, a security officer is in grave condition in Columbus, Ohio, while working at a homeless shelter. Police say he was stabbed brutally multiple times. 51-year-old Robert Atkinson was upset after being denied a place to stay, pulled a knife, and violently attacked the unarmed security officer. Right now, the hospital, Grant Medical Center, has him listed in serious condition. The Chicago city officials last week inked a $30 million contract with a private security firm to move migrant persons to a winterized camp. They were staying in tents and other buildings, and now Garda World Federal Services has been contracted, and they'll be paid $29.4 million to escort these migrants, to transport them to different facilities to prepare for the upcoming winter months, according to the media release that we have. We've told you in recent weeks, San Francisco, private special police, which have all been but one eliminated, now may be coming back to the streets. San Francisco politicians are looking at ways to enhance their law enforcement, and one way may be to bring back these special patrol officers. According to the police commissioner, they are looking at ways of upgrading training and SOPs, and we'll see how that all works out. In Baldwin County, Georgia, this past week also, the sheriff there says, don't wait for an ambulance. If we need to transport someone who is injured, seriously injured, we need to take them and go. There's a shortage of ambulances in that area, and he doesn't want someone to die on his watch because they couldn't get them to the hospital. The ambulance service in that area that was contracted has not renewed their contract, and so they are looking for another contractor. A Texas police chief has died on duty in Edgewood, Texas. Police there announced that the police chief died. David J. Hammonds, who had served the citizens of the state of Tennessee in a law enforcement position since 1969, was well liked, a man of his word, and a police officer's police officer. He will be remembered for the man that he was. Many in Texas knew him. The funeral date and time has not yet been announced. Remember, you can go to our breaking news blog at privateofficerbreakingnews.blogspot.com 24 hours a day. A Virginia man is charged with armed robbery after biting security during a theft. Police say in Prince County, Virginia, police say that the whole situation started as a theft. The person pulled a gun. He is in custody. And in the same neighborhood in Dumfries, police there say a 19-year-old has been arrested for armed robbery. Janine Strobel also pulled a gun on security at Walmart on September the 9th, but fled. Law enforcement had been looking for her and took her into custody. A security officer was severely injured in a machete attack in Austin, Texas. This happened at a hotel. The security officer was attacked by a man wielding a machete. It happened in the early evening hours while the security officer was working the property. Police got a call of a person lying in the parking lot bleeding. The security officer had a severed radial artery. Ulnar nerve was damaged. Lost a lot of blood before EMS could get there. A suspect has been taken into custody. A New Jersey school security officer arrested this past week in Millville for having forced several students at the school to have sex with him. 54-year-old J.T. Banks is in custody on several sexual assault charges, endangering the welfare of a child, and several other charges. He is currently behind bars where he belongs. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back on the Private Officer Beat Radio.
A few moments about the quality of life issues, the daily societal issues that you...
Are you a recently retired or maybe active law enforcement officer looking for a different future, maybe owning your own business, former military, public safety, private security professional, EMS, or the fire service, looking for a new way to make a difference while running and owning your own business? At Public Safety Services, we provide services to those who protect us around the world. I'm talking about the police, the sheriff's department, the military. Our organization provides community service officers, private law enforcement, prisoner transport, traffic investigators, and many other public safety service related services to law enforcement agencies across the nation. You can own your own business, be in business for yourself, but not by yourself. Contact us at publicsafetyservices.org. Let's talk about how you can make a difference today while owning your own business.
A few moments about the quality of life issues, the daily societal issues that you can directly affect. You can directly have some positive input in this aspect of policing. Now that many jurisdictions, many communities are seeing a decline in seeing on some lesser serious crimes that they may have been overlooking over the last 10 or 15 years while crime was escalating and spiking in their communities. And as private security, we have been doing this for years and years and years. At least you should be doing this already routinely while you're on patrol, while you're working in your communities, while you're working on your post, your beat. And if not, we're going to be talking about that a little bit tonight, about the 20 different areas that you could have a direct effect on helping your community or the community that you're securing or policing to be better off. And it's very easy, simple things that we can do, but these are everyday situations that really can make the quality of life in an apartment complex, a condominium complex, an office complex, even a business site such as a hospital. These things could really make them miserable for people, can really put people, make them very uncomfortable, and you know, it can be very unsightly. It can cause the business to look bad or the apartment complex to look bad if we allow these quality of life issues to go, not unnoticed, because we are noticing them, but we're just not taking any action. We're not doing anything about those. So if you are working on an apartment complex or in a condominium or on patrol in an HOA, a housing homeowners authority property, or if you are working in any residential community, there are a certain number of things that you should automatically be looking for and taking some decisive action. It could be that you're just writing a report, which is required by your property or your company, or you may be taking other actions. Let's go over a couple of these. If you are working, for instance, in a residential community, apartments, condominiums, a mobile home park, a campground even, or even a hotel, long-term hotel facility. There are a number of things that can make life miserable for neighbors, for people who live there. For instance, when you're on patrol, we should be looking for disabled vehicles, junked vehicles, vehicles that have been parked on the property for days, weeks, months, and sometimes even years without really anything being done with it. I don't understand it myself, but having had many residential properties as clients, this is one of the things that we immediately do, especially in a Section 8, a housing authority property. This is one of the things that we immediately do that can make an immediate impact on the quality of life for people. Because if you have disabled, junked vehicles on the property, broken windows, leaking oil, leaking fluids all over the place, this is a safety hazard. It is obviously not aesthetic in the area, doesn't look good at all. It makes the property look run down if you're driving around and you're seeing vehicles all parked all over throughout the property that is disabled, up on blocks, missing a tire. It's one thing if it's something that's just happened and the owner is out to get his tools, or he's going out to get a part and he's coming back. That's one thing. But if it's a vehicle that's been there for days and weeks and months, hey, it's time for us to do a couple of things. We can, A, sticker it with a warning to remove it, or it will be removed. And before we go into this, make sure that that's part of the lease. And one of the problems that I found as a security agency is that many times when you review what the client wants you to do and you compare it with the actual lease that the tenant has signed, guess what's missing? The language within the lease that says, if you don't do this, this, and this, we're going to do that, that, and that. If that is not in the lease, then you're going to have a problem enforcing the rules because they've had no notice, and that is one of the clauses in the law that you've got to give notice. So make sure before you do begin these quality of life issues that you don't tow any vehicles or don't take any hard enforcement action. You can begin soft enforcement action until you know that the lease specifies and covers these actions. But once you do that, with the disabled vehicles, with the junk cars, with the abandoned cars, with the cars that are broken down, leaking, you can begin to sticker them. And then, a lot of apartment complexes don't do the next step. They don't follow up with the threat. The sticker clearly says, we will remove the vehicle if you don't remove it within 72 hours. 72 hours come, nothing happens. A week passes, nothing happens. 30 days is over, nothing happens. Car's still there, still jacked up on the block, still leaking oil, still got a broken windshield. The kids are still playing around it. Nothing happens. We need to take the enforcement action that we have specified. That means getting a wrecker in there, and most towing companies will tow abandoned vehicles because they're going to make some money off of it. They won't charge you, but they're going to make, $50, $100, maybe even more these days when they scrap it. So get them in there and tow that thing out of there. We also should be looking for broken windows in buildings as we are making our patrols, whether it be residential or commercial property. Broken windows not only are unsightly, but they are a safety concern. If a person, a child, tries to enter the building or places his arm and hand across the window and gets cut, the property owner could and probably will be liable for that because they left the building in that condition. Whether the person was supposed to be on the property or not, the window should have been repaired or replaced. So be looking for those type of quality of life issues as well. Document them, notify your client, your employer. That's one of those situations where you can't go out and replace that window yourself, but you can stay on top of it. And not only that, but you should be looking for it. Once you report it, you should be looking for it to be repaired in a timely fashion. And if it's not repaired in a couple of days, a week at the most, then I would do another follow-up report. Remember, the whole thing about observe and report or security, law enforcement, community policing is report, document. Whether or not they do anything about it, it's kind of like making an arrest as a police officer. I can make the arrest, but I can't force the judge to give them the maximum sentence. That's in their hands. I've done my job. Now it's up to the court. And really that's where the frustration begins because so many people are turned loose. Well, the same in this type of incident. You've got broken windows, you've got broken doors, you've got unsightly property. Your job is to get the word out, contact the right person. But if they don't do their follow-up, if they don't care, then there's nothing more at that point that you can do. As a security officer, as a private citizen, you may want to call, the zoning commission or whoever if it's a real safety issue. But your job is done once you make the report. Something else that we can do when we're on patrol, especially in residential communities, apartments, condominiums, campgrounds, trailer parks, wherever it might be, where people live either permanently or temporarily, is loud music and parties. And we're coming into the time of year right now, between now and, September, October, November, the next 7 or 8 months, we as a security and law enforcement community, we get tons and tons. The warmer the weather, the more the calls. We get tons of calls about people playing the music loud. 911, my neighbor's got that radio playing again. Get an officer over here. Again, this is a community issue, a quality of life issue that we can directly take control of and resolve. We can make it better for the neighbors. We can make it better for the other residents by quickly taking action, responding, getting the person responsible to turn it down, whether it be a music coming from a car or music coming from a house or a loud party or someone playing a band. We get a lot of parties during the summer that have live bands out in the yard. All that is well and good. I enjoy music, love music, all different types of music. You probably do, but not at 1 o'clock in the morning when I'm trying to sleep, not at 2:30 in the morning when, I'm just in the middle of my solid Z's and, dreaming about being at the beach or something. I don't want to be woken up by all that banging and music and noise at that time. And that's a quality of life issue that we can directly affect, that we can directly have a hand on and get it corrected. And you can do it by, verbal notification, asking them to be compliant, asking them to turn it down voluntarily. And, of course, if it's a repeated offense, a situation that they're not going to listen to you, they turn it down for a moment until you leave, and then 5 seconds later, once you're gone, they turn it back up. That's an issue that you have to bring the police into, and now they might have to be cited for a nuisance or a noise violation. But that's a situation, a quality of life situation that we can definitely have a quick change and a drastic effect on that issue. A couple other things that you can be involved in no matter where you are is having graffiti, tagging, vandalism on the property, whether you're patrolling commercial or residential, tagging and graffiti. Some of it really is cool. Some of it is really pretty. I've seen some walls where some very talented people painted almost mural-like, on the wall, and it was beautiful. Lots of different colors. They really had a talent. But it was the wrong place for them to be putting that talent, the wrong place for them to be exercising their, art. And so these are the situations that you can immediately have an effect on. First, report it. Make sure that you photograph it, document it, and then begin keeping an eye out for it. Tagging property, is not cool. It is a criminal offense in every state. Vandalism is against the law in every community. And unfortunately, the outlet for their talent is being put at the wrong place. We need to redefine it and re-channel it. We need to re-channel it in a different area for them. But if they're tagging private property, buildings, and vehicles, just this weekend, at a Georgia school, 20 seniors at a school was arrested because they spray painted senior 2012 and different things at the school and on vehicles and on buses, and they made about $20,000 or $40,000 worth of damage. That's just not cool. That's not artwork. That is actually destruction of private property. But we can begin the process to change the quality of life in communities that have vandalism problems, graffiti problems. We can immediately, just last week in California, security officers undercover in plain clothes captured, I believe they made 25 arrests of teenagers who was tagging and spray painting and vandalizing property of the local transit authority. And sometimes you have to do that type of enforcement to stop it because the quality of life goes down. The neighborhood begins to look like, the hood, and like people that don't care live there. And, who wants to live around that? So these are quality of life issues that we can drastically reduce or even stop completely. We also have in our power to stop situations where people are parking illegally, especially on private property. If people are parking in handicapped spaces and taking those spaces away from those who truly are handicapped and have the permit, we can immediately take that into our hands and make a difference. People come home, they want to be able to park, they're handicapped, they go in, they can't get into their space because someone else without a sticker, without a handicap placard is parked there. We can immediately, drastically change that by enforcing the parking rules. So again, it's something that we can immediately make a difference. Not a long-term, it's not going to be something that is going to take a month or a year to change, but we can change it right now at this moment. Some of the other things that we can look at is loitering. Make that a priority, especially if you're on patrol in a residential community, a neighborhood watch. Be reasonable. Make sure that it's within the law, but we definitely can have an effect on that. We also can have an effect on environmental crimes. Chemicals being illegally stored. We can definitely notify authorities when we find barrels of hazardous waste or other things in areas that they shouldn't be. There's just tons of quality of life issues that we can directly affect quickly without a lot of skill, without a lot of experience. Everyone can do this. One of the other things is roaming dogs or stray dogs. We can immediately contact the animal control folks in our area, get them involved if that's an issue in your community. We have tons and tons of things that we can do immediately as private security officers to immediately make an effect, a positive effect on the community, on the business, whether industrial, commercial, or residential, that we are patrolling. It's just a matter of us stepping up, to the cost. It's just a matter of us getting out there and taking action, caring about what our job is. Unfortunately, too many times, people, security and law enforcement, come to work, they put in their 8 hours, and, they don't get too involved. They don't do anything more than they have to. They really don't put themselves out there. But if you're willing to get involved, if you're willing to look around you and see where you can make a difference, you will find quickly that there are plenty of places to get involved in and plenty of things that you can truly make the difference in.
I recorded that radio show on March the 12th of 2012. That was a long time ago. 11 years ago, 11 and a half years ago. And all of those facts and services provided by private security are still the same today and still true, even more so with the lack of law enforcement and the inability for law enforcement to respond adequately to some lower level crimes, especially in communities, major cities where they are really hurting for law enforcement. They just have not enough officers to respond to what we call quality of life issues and crimes. And that's where security really can make a big difference in their community. They can assist with parking issues that don't need the police, non-violent incidents where no one's been attacked, assaulted, injured, and they really don't need to have a police report. There are things that we can do in our own community patrols, and you see now more than ever more and more security companies taking on those mobile patrols of business areas, downtown areas, community centers, retail environments, and many other patrol opportunities in Chicago and Detroit and a number of other states and cities across the country. We have private security patrols handling many, many different tasks that were once thought of being law enforcement, but quality of life issues we can definitely take care of most of these things, loud noise, trespasser, vagrant, so on and so forth, without the input of law enforcement, and keep them out on the street, to respond to the higher level calls, unless you absolutely need them, where people just are resisting, non-compliant, and just not listening to you. We introduced a number of years ago a service that one of the companies I have provides called the Public Safety or Community Service Oriented Officer, where they respond to take reports, non-active crime scenes, parking enforcement. They also write the reports on non-injury accidents. They do litter investigation, prisoner transport from the scene to the jail, and other things that alleviate having to have a police officer out there responding to these lower level calls. Well, that's going to do it for us today. If you have any questions, please contact helpdesk at privateofficer.com. Until the next time, y'all be safe, be blessed, and we'll see you back here on the radio.